Welcome to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. How you doing? I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. Andy King was an undercover CIA agent for 7 years. He worked for the Medellin drug cartel, helping Pablo Escobar expand his empire. Andy carried out missions for Fidel Castro, Manuel Noriega, the Sandinistas, and the Contras, and that's just for starters. My Life or Not, The Legend of El Rey is part truth, part fiction. Andy, why are you publishing this now?
Well, first of all, I didn't intend to write a book initially, but I was encouraged. Nobody has known my story. Nobody, not my wife, my kids, colleagues, friends, no one. So they all encouraged me to write it because they didn't know anything about my early life. And, and my wife, she encouraged me to write it too, because I was starting to exhibit a lot of signs of PTSD and, would have violent dreams at night and things like that. So writing this book has really helped with that. It's been kind of therapeutic.
So tell me about this book.
Well, it's divided into 10 chapters, and I couldn't put everything in the book because I was undercover for, like 2,800 days plus days. And, I couldn't put everything in the book. So I picked things to put in the book. Not all of them. I mean, it's not for the faint of heart to read this book. But I think it was a story worth telling.
Well, I'm thinking Pablo Escobar, you go undercover. How do you, and you see stories like this on TV all the time, you make your way into an organization like the Medellin drug cartel. And how do you actually do that? I mean, you actually have to gain their trust.
Well, I learned, almost immediately that the only way to infiltrate an organization like that is to become one of them. So, you have to become one of them. You have to go on missions with them. You have to, do just what they're doing. And, but I did have one little advantage, is that I had a ship. Well, some would call it a boat. That was about 180 feet long. And I was running liquor, mostly rum and cigars, from Cuba to Colombia, because it was embargoed at that time. So that was illegal smuggling to do that. And then I offered them my boat on the way back, because Pablo wanted to set up drug distribution through Cuba. So then I would run drugs back to Cuba, and then the Cubans would distribute them from there.
Did you have to kill anybody?
Yes.
I mean, that has to be, is that difficult?
Well, like I've told people who've read the book, it's easy to kill someone. It's hard to live with the memory.
What was Pablo Escobar like?
I only met Pablo Escobar one time face to face. He did not meet with a lot of people because people were trying to find out where he was. People were, so he was always afraid that somebody was going to lead, if not the government to him, but the paramilitary groups there that were fighting the drug traffickers. So he was always afraid of that. So, but the one time I did meet him, it was at his hacienda, and Napoli he was very much a Europhile. He considered himself like an aristocratic gentleman type person. Believe that, or believe you can believe that. Yes, he did. And he actually said one time that the only person in the world more important than him was the Pope.
Okay. So, all right.
And no, so I was there when I met him, and we talked, and he said, yeah, we'll never meet face to face again. But he said, I'm having this barbecue for the opening of my zoo. He opened his own zoo on his property. And I was there for the opening of the zoo. And, and then he had built a baseball field on his property. I played baseball in college. He found out I was a pretty good player, and so he told me I needed to play in the baseball game on his team. So we played baseball.
Okay. Do you start with Pablo Escobar and then we move on to Fidel Castro and Manuel Noriega?
Yeah, I mean, I start out, with how I met the cartel, the opening meetings with them, and then I go on to do the first mission to Cuba, right? And Pablo Escobar tells me, as long as that goes fine, he goes, there'll be more missions. It'll be a regular thing. So then I go into a chapter on Cuba. Fidel Castro sent me to Grenada to deliver something for him. And that just happened to be the day that we invaded Grenada.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, that was quite an experience, watching all the paratroopers come flying down from the sky while you're walking through the streets of Grenada. And then after I did a good job for Castro, then Pablo sent me to meet with Noriega, and he wanted Noriega to start distributing drugs for him. After Noriega, it was the Sandinistas, and then the Contras, all these people, and then eventually Haiti.
All of these people distributed drugs for Escobar?
Yes. That's how he became so huge.
While we were dealing with these people, right? While the U.S. was dealing with Noriega, dealing with the Contra rebels.
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
Well, the CIA, they figured that drugs were a good way to finance the Contras because Congress had pulled funding.
They were good with it.
They were being financed through drug money.
This is so disturbing on so many levels. Do you fear for your life now that you've written this book? I mean, nobody wanted you to write this book.
I've been hiding. I had to write it under a pen name. So Andy King is a pen name.
Was El Rey your real nickname?
That was my real nickname, yeah. Because my last name was King. El Rey is the king in Spanish.
Okay.
So, yeah, in the beginning, it was like a joke, oh, El Rey's here, and they'd all laugh and whatever. But eventually, that's what everybody called me. Nobody used their real names. Nobody.
Can you go out and talk about this book?
Most of the people that are talked about in the book are dead. I can't think of anybody really that isn't dead, that I dealt with during that period of time.
So you have no apprehension about going out and talking about your book?
Yes, I have some apprehension, I must admit. I don't think you could help but have some.
What's the next step for this book as far as you're concerned?
Well, everybody that's read it so far has said that, it's a page turner, it's a gripping story or whatever. I mean, I'd like to try and get it made into a movie, a TV series, something like that.
Yeah, because nobody has a life like this. Nobody has a life like this. So after you got out, what did you end up doing?
Well, I'm not going to say exactly what I ended up doing, but I spent 35 years with the same company.
Okay.
I was kind of afraid to leave, and I, was in a position where, I was kind of managing myself. So, I was told, try and stay in the job so that there's no background check crap or any of that stuff that's going to get done. They got me in touch with the person who gave me the job.
Oh, I see. So after you got out, they made sure you went somewhere where nobody was going to ask any questions.
Right. And I got out with the guy who was my travel partner with the cartel. And he was Colombian, but he had spent some time in the United States. he left with me, and they put him in the witness protection program.
Well, all those years you were undercover, you were a young man. Where did your family think you were?
They knew I was working for, outside the country. That's all.
So for 7 years, you didn't have any contact with them?
Not really, no.
Wow, Andy. Oh, my God. What a story. What a story.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that you felt this therapeutic. You could kind of purge some of your demons by writing about them.
Absolutely. And then, the people who know me know about it now. So I don't have to hide that anymore.
Andy King, My Life or Not, The Legend of El Rey. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Alice. I appreciate it.
Pretty easy to guess what Jai Macoy's book is about. It is entitled, Are You Kidneying Me? My Personal Experience with Kidney Disease. LJ, what was the first sign that something was up?
I had just returned from a beautiful vacation in the Bahamas. This was in January of 2022. And I felt like a weird kind of numbness in my left hand and the left side of my mouth. My daughter, who's a physician, she thought, like, Dad, you may have had a stroke. I was like, no, I don't think so, but I'll make an appointment with a primary care physician. So I did that, went through the physical, and the guy came back and said, hey, something's not right with your blood work. I'd like for you to see a nephrologist. And I'm like, well, what's a nephrologist? What do you mean? So from there, they found out that my kidney function was basically, I was at stage 5 chronic kidney disease, meaning my kidney function was less than 15%. So that happened in January, and by May, I was on dialysis.
0 to 60.
Exactly.
Do you have history of kidney disease in your family, or this just kind of hit you out of nowhere?
It kind of hit me out of nowhere, which is what happens to most people. The leading causes of kidney failure is diabetes. Second cause is high blood pressure. So I do have a family history of diabetes and high blood pressure. I was officially diagnosed as a diabetic in October of 2020, but I had been managing it through exercise and diet. I was not on any kind of medication. So I think this is what happens to a lot of people. You think you're fine, but your kidney function is slowly deteriorating. And then all of a sudden, because there really are no, again, kidney disease is it's set up in 5 stages, 3, you kind of feel a little bit, but not much. But 4, you can definitely feel it. And 5, you're in bad shape. So I didn't feel anything. It's just like, yeah, I got it together. Things are working out. But then when you get the actual blood work, you find out that, hey, the clock is ticking. And so I wanted to get the word out to people to say, hey, get your blood work every year. Just because you feel good or you think you feel good, it doesn't mean that you are good.
So you wind up on dialysis, and at that point, do you begin the search for a donor?
Yeah. It's an arduous process. I mean, first just kind of going through the emotional feeling of, hey, maybe my time is up. I mean, this is a big ask to ask someone to give up an organ for you. But there are these deceased donor lists. That's the goal of everyone, to try to get on the deceased donor list. But at any moment, there are over 90,000 people on the deceased donor list, and there are just not that many available donors. So in Maryland, and it's pretty consistent throughout the United States, it takes about 2 to 5 years on the wait list.
Oh, man.
If you're lucky. So that was my first process. Once I decided to go ahead and try to extend my life with dialysis, it was to get on the deceased donor list. So I did that with the help of the social workers at the dialysis center. And then, of course, they're encouraging you to talk to anybody in your family. And I'm just like, that's too much to ask. And that's okay. I'll just press my luck and see what happens over the next 2 to 5 years. And part of the process is you have to have your team together, because if you receive a deceased donor, you have to be ready at the drop of a dime. So I always had a bag packed in case they called me at 2 o'clock in the morning and I'd have to, get to the hospital.
Right.
And so you need to be within a 2-hour time distance from the hospital.
Mm.
So they need to make sure that you have your team in place. So you're on the phone with the social worker, and I included on my call my 2 children, my daughter and my son. And Alice, I get emotional even talking about this now.
Oh. I get it.
But anyway, so at the end of this call, the social worker, she's just telling like, hey, this is what it's all about. This is what the deceased donor list is, and this is the wait time, and this is what you need, and you can't be, and if you get it, all the precautions necessary. And to my surprise, at the end of that call, my son said, "Can I be tested?" And I was like, it doesn't even matter. I don't know what's going on with me right now, but
It's okay.
he said, I said to myself, it doesn't even matter if he's a match or not. Just the fact that he
Stepped up.
was more than enough to give me the incentive to keep going. And
I don't think people realize like the antigens, that's the key, right? Your
Absolutely.
antigens have to match up. So you must have been so proud of your son.
yeah, I mean, I don't even have the words. And I write in my book a couple of times, like even to this day, I don't think my son realized what he did for me, because he doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't want any special attention. He's just like, oh, okay, pops, this is what needed to be done. But yeah, to your point of, with the husband, everything has to match. So the fact that, your blood type has to match, the antigens have to match, everything match. He and I are about the same size. So it just, because it's an arduous process. I mean, he agreed to be tested. That was at the end of October. We didn't get the final green light until March of 2023.
Wow.
And so there's a lot of back and forth. So just his determination to not be deterred, and just keep going back and forth, like, yeah, I'll do this. And they don't make it easy. And I'm sure, I don't know what happened on his end, because there's this sort of separation of state between the donor coordinator and the recipient coordinator. But I'm sure they're asking him a lot of psychological questions like, are you sure? Do you want to do this? Here's the risk. But nothing deterred him. He was steadfast and followed through, So yeah, he was 31 and I was 60 at that time. So yeah, just amazing.
What was it like after the operation?
Well, let me first add this. This is how blessed I am, because my blood type was A positive.
Oh.
His blood type was O positive, which means he could give to anyone, but he can only receive from an O positive, an O positive person. So if it had been in the reverse, we would not have been a match. So it's just like, I'm on God's side or God's on my side, however you want to phrase it. But
Yeah.
anyway.
Somebody wasn't done with you yet.
Exactly. But anyway, yeah. So after the surgery, just the way it happens, obviously he goes in first. His surgery took about 2 hours, and then they kind of keep the kidney on ice for about 2 hours. So I wanted to see him before I went back, and I saw him, and he was fine, and he was a little drowsy, but he was very coherent and made a joke. So I was like, okay, he's fine. So I go in with all the confidence and I say, okay, if I survive this, I'm going to do everything I can to help other people. So, my surgery is like a 4 or 5 hour surgery. I stay in the hospital for 4 days. The surgery's on a Thursday. He checked himself out on Saturday.
Oh.
Picked up his dog. He had to stick around because he lives in North Carolina. He had to stick around a week just so they could follow up. But everything checked out. But picked up his dog and drove the 8 hours back to North Carolina. So he was fine. Me, it's there's a lot of follow up because infection is the number one cause of rejection. So first week out of the hospital, you go get your blood drawn twice a week. Well, I'd say the first month, but every week, twice a week. Then after a month, you get your blood drawn once every 2 weeks. And so now I'm on the once a month schedule. I'm just shy of 2 years out at this point. So yeah, it's a lot of detail to that, but it's an arduous process. But I instantly felt better. Again, I would say that I don't think you realize how sick you are until you get well, because
Right.
you get used to feeling bad. But at the day before my surgery, my estimated glomerular filtration rate, EGFR is what they call it, was only 7%. So my kidneys were only functioning at 7% capacity. Mm. The day after the operation, I was measured at 49%. So a 7-fold increase.
Wow.
And it's just, it was just amazing. My sister was there for the surgery. She's like, Larry, your skin is coming back. Your eyes are clearing up. And I was like, you didn't tell me I was this ugly before. You didn't say anything. But,
do they bring you into the hospital? Like, do they bring back kidney patients to talk to people that are about to go through this?
Well, through the volunteer programs, yes. So again, I volunteer for the National Kidney Foundation, the American Kidney Fund, and Donate Life, which deals with all sorts of transplants, organs and tissues and stuff like that. So there are speaking engagements where you can not only talk to patients, but also talk to the nursing staff, medical staff, to kind of give them the boots on the ground experience.
Are you allowed to bring your book with you to these engagements?
That's what I'm going to start doing. I haven't tried that yet. The book just came out, but that's definitely my plan to get that out there.
I would think it would be of great comfort to people about to undergo this life-changing experience,
Yeah, I hope so, because I think a lot of people, and I've heard, anecdotal tales of people who just hear horror stories about dialysis and just decide to just say, forget it. I'll just die, which was, those are my thoughts for a while there. So I want to be this beacon of light that says, hey, I know it's a tough decision, but if you just hang in there, there's hope on the other side. And so I just want to show them what it looks like on the other side. Like I have pictures of me when I was sick, and, everyone tells me I look great now. So if I can encourage someone to say, if you could just hang in there, I know, sometimes we as people, we tend to overestimate what can be done in 1 year and underestimate what can happen in 3 years. So if you could just hang in there, keep the faith, there's a chance. So.
You're amazing. Jai Macoy, Are You Kidneying Me? My personal experience with kidney disease. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
A.D. Owens is a mother of 3 boys in Jasper, Alabama, and she's a prolific writer with several published books under her belt. But The Adventures of Charlie, Delighting in Differences is her first with Fulton Books and her first with her 14-year-old son, Charlie.
He is the co-author and illustrator. He has autism spectrum disorder, and it's based on him and things that he has been faced with throughout his life, but made into like a fun adventure magical type thing. It's the first of a series.
Welcome to Diddley Whirlville. I love that. What happens here?
Diddley Whirlville. Look at me. It's a tongue teaser.
It is.
But it's a world of beautiful colors, sounds, everything. Like, it just takes your senses it's like a roller coaster ride for your senses, which is how my son Charlie views the world. It's all based on, he sees things differently than most of us do. He sees, it might just be the blue sky, but he sees like incredibly vibrant hues of blue, and he notices every detail. And that's what Diddley Whirlville is. It's just all the beautiful colors, fun adventures. It's like I said, a roller coaster ride for your senses. And he has a few interesting friends that join him along the way.
Glitterbeak, I like that. Jungle Fur, the squirrel.
Yes.
What's Charlie's adventure about?
He wakes up one morning, and it kind of follows him just throughout the town, the city of Diddley Whirlville, and it follows it from his perspective, and he meets a new friend in each land. Glitterbeak is his companion through the whole book, is his little sidekick. And he and Glitterbeak go just all over the place. He learns that other people see the world differently than he does. At the same time, these other characters that he become friends with, and the areas that they live in, they learn that everyone sees everything differently. Everyone is different, and that being different is something that should be celebrated. And that's, that's kind of the lesson throughout the whole story, that in this it's a children's book, but it's for children, I like to say, of all ages. Everyone can learn a beautiful life lesson from it. And it just celebrates that we are all different. And different does not mean less, it means extraordinary. Like, for instance, there's the rainbow forest, lots of colors, lots of exciting play. And then he comes to a place, it's called Silence Shade Village. And it is, like everything else, very different than what he's used to. And the characters are used to. It's, like it says, it's very quiet, very black and white type, not many, kind of grayscale. All the buildings are the same. It's very, like I said, very quiet. There's not a whole lot of what, like my grandmother likes to say, ruckus and hustle and bustle. And it makes him, he gets a little scared at first. He's not, he thinks to himself, okay, this has got to be scary. It's got to be something bad about it, because it's so different than all these other colorful, fun places I've been to. But while he's there, he discovers just because it's different does not mean it's bad. He still has fun. He still learns. Don't judge it by the outside. Like, different does not mean bad. And what something may appear to us to be scary, but once you get in there and see, you're never going to know. And you find out, oh, wow, this is cool. It's fun. I can do this, experience all these wonderful things everywhere.
And not be afraid.
Yes, it's how, it's all about your perception, how you approach things, and that positive attitude, and all the above.
With your kids, the ages they are you able to go into schools and read your book?
Yes, we actually, I should say Charlie has a very large following. He's pretty famous here we live in a small town, but we're very close to bigger cities. But just through, like I said, he is on the autism spectrum, but he is extremely unique, just as everyone is. And he does not meet a stranger. Therefore, we'll be out somewhere and I'll hear, Charlie, oh my gosh, Mom, it's Charlie. And I'm, obviously super nice and they're wonderful. And they'll leave and I'll say, okay, Charlie, who was that? So, but yes, we do. I read all my books, and including this one. They're in the school libraries here, and they will be in the school libraries here. We have a few book signings coming up, and then we have actually Charlie is being recognized in a couple of weeks just for all of his accomplishments.
That's great. Does he actually do the illustrations in this book?
If in the book, you'll notice that Charlie in the book looks like Charlie in real life, and it is based on a self-portrait that Charlie did of when he was 4.
Oh, wow.
And he drew it, and I was like, oh my, this is wonderful. And so I've kept it all these years, and I have like redrawn it and gone back over it and gotten Charlie's input, and that is where the illustrations started and came from. All of the characters, they're all from his brilliant mind. And yes, he is extremely talented. Of course, I think so no matter what, because he's my child, but anything creative he just has an knack for. So everything was started from his little self-portrait he did. Like I said, he's 14 now, so this has been in the works for a very long time.
Are you already getting started on your next book?
The second book is done, my part. Manuscript, yes. That
okay.
is, we haven't published it yet, but it's sitting in the, it's waiting. And then we have a pretty rough outline of the third.
That's great, Anna. That's great.
Thank you.
You got to be busy.
Yes, but this is, I love it. Again, it's just wonderful. And honestly, the thing that pushes me, that is just the most rewarding, is knowing, first of all, that this, is based on, this is my child's story, and it's him. And anytime I see, whether it's my book, someone else's book, when I see a child reading, I am able to see, you can look at them and see the expressions on their faces and see that their imagination and their mind is, just exploding. That is, I could almost cry when I see that and I get to experience that, and knowing that they're reading something and going into a world that we've created in our minds, and it's stimulating their mind, is just, there's no words to explain. I'm a very emotional person as well, so I apologize.
That's okay. It comes with your creativity, I think.
That's what my grandmother tells me.
AD and Charlie Owens, The Adventures of Charlie, Delighting in Differences. Thank you so much.
It was amazing speaking with you, and you are so kind and wonderful, and I appreciate everything.
Mark Metcalf is an actor, producer, and now author of Timmy, about his little brother who struggled with learning and social interaction at a time when special needs kids were barely diagnosed, let alone provided with the services they needed. Mark, for starters, can you just give us a little bit of background on your life?
I've worked all my life, adult life, as an actor. The things that I've done in movies and television that people would know would be a movie called Animal House, a television show called Seinfeld. I did a couple of episodes of Seinfeld playing a character called the Maestro. I also was on a television show called Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I played a character called the Master in the first season. I was an 800-year-old vampire who lived in a church buried in an earthquake under Sunnydale, California. I've done lots and lots and lots of plays. I've made a relatively successful career as an actor for 50-something years.
Okay. Why did you decide to write Timmy now?
Well, I wasn't acting. COVID came along, and my brother died by suicide in 1999, and he and I were very, very close, and yet not, and then yet I didn't know very much about him, and I wanted to know why a man who was at the time 46 years old, who had had every opportunity for what we call in America a successful life, that is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, would end up on his knees in his father's backyard with a bullet in his head by his own hand. So I set about to investigate through my own memory of him, and talking to my other brother, Roy, who knew him also very well. I went about to investigate what his life had been and what had gone unnoticed. And as a corollary to it, my son, who is now 30-something, he was diagnosed as neurodiverse. At the time, they called it Asperger's, and struggled, as one does when one is on the spectrum and trying to live in a world that doesn't always recognize that. But we did recognize it. We saw it. We got him evaluated by a psychologist, got him some help. He was also dyslexic. Got him into a program called Orton Gillingham, which teaches people who have difficulty reading how to read in ways that their brain can work with, rather than the regular by rote way of reading that most of us learn how to read. And he got help, and I realized as he was getting that help that I had already known that my brother suffered from some mental health problems, some learning disabilities, because he was very, very, very smart, strong brain, but was not capable of learning easily, well, the way most of us learn. But it went undiagnosed because he was raised in the middle of this country, in the middle of last century,
right?
When those kinds of things were not recognized. There wasn't the language for it. There wasn't. Everything in the 50s and 60s in the United States of America was perfect. It was all we were going to sail through life, all of us, perfectly, and it just wasn't true. There were things happening that are happening now. There were things, I mean, there were mental health problems that, and I was realizing this as I was writing about his life. I realized this, and at the same time, I realized that if he'd gotten the attention, the help, the love that my son got, he might have had every chance at a fruitful life, because my son now is a lawyer working for the state of Hawaii, an environmental lawyer, thriving, very confident, very happy. And my brother was not. He had moments, he had times, he worked a bit as an actor, not professionally, but just as a Shakespearean actor. Made himself into a bit of a Shakespearean scholar, literally built these hands of theater in New York on 4th Street in the Lower East Side with a bunch of friends from Martha's Vineyard. And again, was never the kind of success that we sort of always long for and dream for and expect for ourselves in the United States of America. But he had a life. But he went down the rabbit hole. He lost all of that due to circumstances beyond his control, and went down the rabbit hole, and ended up spending the last 7 years of his life living with my parents in North Carolina. Sad, depressed, heavily medicated, anesthetized really with Thorazine, diagnosed as narcissistic to a terminal degree.
You draw the distinction between the help that your son got and the help your brother didn't get. But what do you want the reader to do? Is there something more we need to do?
I want the reader to understand that if we listen to the children, they can teach us a lot about how to live with each other, and how to with each other in an inclusive way. And I'm going to say what has become a dirty word in the United States of America. If they embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion rather than reject it, they can, a lot of people who are thought to be different, who are, and other is a verb now in certain circles, they can be, if you're different, you get othered, you get teased, you get mocked as a child. You get ridiculed, and you get shoved off, and you used to get shoved off into the corner. We're much more, as a society, as a culture, we've evolved to the point where we're much more inclusive. We're much more able to embrace difference. We're much more able to recognize that difference is a positive thing, because it makes life interesting. It makes life more creative. There are scientists now who think that it's what was called Asperger's became called living on the autism spectrum, and now it's referred to as neurodiverse or neuroatypical, and which is a much more affectionate word. It embraces the differences, the diversity.
Mark, are you talking about your book?
I started the Substack primarily to let people know about my book, and have started enjoying commenting on the social, cultural, political situation in the United States, and also publishing some academic pieces that I'm writing and working on, and I'm doing that, and I am doing a reading actually in a woman's house in my neighborhood. And I am contacting book fairs.
All right, Mark, that's the way to do it. I hope you get some traction. Mark Metcalf, author of Timmy. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. Thanks. I really appreciate it. Great, very grateful for you. Thank you.
How great would it be to just pick up and leave your current life with all of its challenges behind? Lisa D.A. Roberto did just that, and then she wrote a book about it based on her experience. It is entitled Greener Grass. Now, the character in your book had everything. She was married, she had 3 kids, a successful law career, beautiful house, and just took off. I'm just curious, what was going on in your life?
My husband and I separated a few years ago, and I did exactly what she did. I just up and moved. And the details aren't specific to mine, but the feelings are.
And then what made your character walk out?
I think it was the feeling of being stagnant. That, they talk about the midlife crisis. And for me, it felt like Laura was going through a midlife crisis. She thought that she had everything, but felt like something was missing and needed to figure out what was missing, and then realized that there was nothing missing at all.
How old are the kids in the book?
Daniel is in college and getting ready to graduate from college. And then the younger two, the middle one is in first year of college, and then the youngest is graduating from high school and getting ready to go to college. There were interactions, obviously, between Laura and the kids individually, and the kids were definitely vocal, some of them more so than others, about how they felt.
What happens when she just takes off and goes to this little seaside town, gets her own place? I mean, for a lot of women, this is like a dream come true, that a woman would have the guts to just pick up and leave, go get a job, take care of yourself. Just what happens to her?
She goes through a gamut of emotions about it, from the initial, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that, to, I finally have my freedom and I get to do what I want to without having that pull of the kids need this or the husband needs that, to what did I do? I just walked away from everything. So there's quite a range of emotions through the entire book.
Do we want to talk about what she ends up doing? Probably not. You have to read the book to find out whether she goes back, because you mentioned that, you leave a situation and you don't necessarily go into a better one.
Right. Yeah, it would have been the perfect situation if she didn't have the, I guess you could say, baggage of the kids and worrying about them and the husband. And so for most women, yes, it would sound like it would be the perfect situation, but for her, it was a matter of, I'd left everything and I'm not sure how I feel about this.
Okay. Are you out talking about this book?
I am.
So how's that going?
So far, everyone has loved it and had really positive feedback as far as, wow, I can relate to her. She's very relatable. I've had these type of emotions and not sure what to do with it, and how would that go, if I were to do something like that. So it's been very, very positive so far.
How are you setting up those book signings?
I've actually been doing them on my own. I have a couple scheduled, possibly 3. So trying to get it out there. And
how are you going through that process, though? How are you setting it up?
I am actually going to individual bookstores and saying, hey, have you heard of my book? Barnes & Noble obviously carries it, so I went to them to see if they had it in stock, which they didn't. So I am actually setting up a book signing with them to have them get some in stock. They have it online, but not actually on the shelves.
So you're actually just walking into bookstores. People need to do that, and they're so reluctant to.
Yep. The only way that people are going to find me.
Yeah. Are you going to keep writing?
I am. I actually have a couple new ones started, trying to decide which way I want to go. Maybe from the point of view of one of the other characters. So I'm not sure yet.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
So you actually, in your real life, picked up and left?
I did.
How did that go?
It was awful. It was awful. At first it was like, wow, this is exciting, exactly the way she felt. It was super exciting, and it was like, wow, freedom. My kids are actually older than that, but it was kind of exciting at first, and like I've been under the thumb of other people for so long, and then it was like, oh my God, what did I do?
Well, clearly everything seemed to work out for you.
It did. It did. My husband and I are back together and much better than we were. So,
Oh, that's wonderful.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
great. Did it help you to write about it?
it did. It did because I was villainized for a long time. So it was nice to have the explanation out there and what I went through also. So
Oh, good for you. Lisa D.A. Roberto, Greener Grass. Thank you so much.
thank you so much for having me.
Louis G. Gazoul is a full-time real estate agent in Michigan, and his creative outlet is, you guessed it, writing. He joins us to talk about his fourth book in his series, The Lay of the Fairy. Louis, when do you find the time to write such intricate novels?
Oh gosh. I just whenever I can, basically. I'm a busy guy. I'm a full-time agent, but my I jump into coffee shops. I'll hit the library across the street. I'll you spend time in the middle of the night when I get an idea. So
Have you always written like that?
yeah, actually I have. When I was younger, I never wrote that much, but when I got into college, um, I ended up just writing little short, stories for myself and things like that. I never really did any publishing or anything like that. But as the years went by, I just decided to. I'll give you the story. I was sitting in an open house one day on a Sunday, bored to tears. It was a bad marketplace. I didn't bring a book. It was a divorce situation home, so it was Spartan on the inside. I had a table and chair, and that was it. And I needed something to do, so I was looking around this house, and they already cleared it out. And I finally find a book to read, and sure enough, it was like it was Gone with the Wind of all books, right? So I read the first chapter, and I closed it, and I said to myself out loud, I said, I can do this. And so I just started jotting down notes. And the notes turned into a paragraph turned into a page, and a page turned into an idea for a book. So as I was writing this, as the days went by and the weeks and the months, because I didn't have a lot of time, I was always working. Um, I needed backstory, so I started writing the backstory to the story that I was developing. And then as time went on, the backstory became the book. And the original idea that I had for the book is the end of my third book. So it was kind of like built up this storyline that just kept on going.
Fast and furious, man. It just kept.
Yeah, it was, even though it did take me a long time to write. Book 1 and 2, Druids of the Fairy, was the backstory. And then as I was writing that, I was also writing book 3, which is Pilgrimage of the Fairy, which was the original idea. So I literally had both of those books ready to go to publish, like almost at the same time.
Wow. And now
book number 4, I started that from scratch. I believe in 2020 or 2021. That was the first time that I had to expand on my story, my original stories, for the continuation of these characters in the book. And so it kind of took me a while to get it going, but it became just a great novel. So I'm really, really happy about it.
so this is Lay of the Fairy.
The Lay of the Fairy, yeah.
Can you kind of outline what's going on here so people aren't in the dark? Like, what's the basic story here?
Well, it all began back in the day when the main character, Prince Beitel, was unhappy with his life at home because his twin brother was evil and basically altering his body to create this monster. And his dad was, a horrible king that had magical abilities too. And he escaped, and he, with the help of a tree fairy, which was a prisoner actually under his dad's realm. And he escaped into the wild and went to this fortress in the wild called the Citadel, where they taught the healing arts and, swordplay and, all the other things that go along with being a true warrior. And he became a druid. And what ended up happening is, as time went on, he collected all these companions and he fought against his father and brother in the first book. And the Pilgrimage of the Fairy in book 3 was him gaining more magic and fighting, evil and things like that. But Lay of the Fairy is a combination of all of these characters and their missions, and the missions go from east to west in this land that I created, and they're split in half, and half of them go one way, the other half go the other, and the idea of ley is a ley line. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what a ley line is, but it is a geographical pointer that lines up magical places in the land, and as these characters split up, they have to place magical gems or stones on certain objects on the ley line for this magical phenomenon to occur, to reinitiate or reinvigorate the magic of the land and the magic of the citadel also. So it's a complicated book, but it really is a page turner. I got to tell you, it's a lot of fun to read, because Alice, what I do with my characters, I just don't write about how they're powerful and stuff like that. I expose their weaknesses. I get into their minds on how fearful they could be, how humiliated they could be, how they take on courage, how they fight against courage but follow through with it. I've developed my characters into people that you see every day in your life, right. And I really try to do the human side of humanity in these books, where you can actually connect with one of the people in the book. It's not just a fantasy novel. It's a novel of courage, of love, of strength, of evil, of power, of weakness. I mean, it's got all the elements of humanity in it. That if I were a kid from 7th grade on up, or even into the adult years, because this is not a white, young. It can be any type of book.
Right.
It would be a comfort to know that the women in the book are strong characters that are just phenomenal, and the men in the book are the same. And if you're growing up, you have a feel of what it's like to be in that zone of being in command of yourself, and I feel like I'm actually showing that to my readers.
What kind of feedback are you getting?
The people that I know that have written my books have loved them, have given me pretty good reviews. This one first that just came out, I submitted it to Readers Favorites, which is this review competition, and I got 5 stars and a fantastic review. So that was my first one about a week ago.
Do you wrap up the series here?
No.
No.
I'm actually writing book number 5 right now. I don't have a title or anything like that.
Oh man, you are something else.
I'm just in the infancy stage of it, but I got some great ideas going, and it's going to be a good one. But that might be the last one of the series that advances.
Okay.
But I also have an idea of another book that goes back into the past about one of the characters in the book that. If you have read it, it would be one of the druids that became a shapeshifter and a diviner. So that might be another book down the road also. So. Well,
it sounds like you really enjoy it. It sounds like you're in it. It sounds like you're in it when you're writing it. I can see you in the story.
I am so focused that sometimes I'm at a coffee shop and people that I know don't even come up to me because they see me concentrating so hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of crazy. But I just love writing. It's just such a great escape for me, for one. But two is, as you get a little older, you need hobbies, and you need to keep your mind fresh. And this is really right up that alley, man. I got to tell you, this has been such a joy to do. And the biggest kick I get out of it is the original story that, was going on, is those were bedtime stories that I was telling my kids while I was writing,
Oh,
when they were younger, and they just got plugged in big time.
what's better than that? I mean,
Well, to the point where both of my kids are knee deep in it. Also, though, my youngest child is in grad school for creative writing, and teaching undergrad creative writing too at West Virginia University. So she's following in the footsteps of Pops here.
well, tell her to promote your book. Tell those kids to
I
promote your
know.
book. Put it on their social media.
Right, exactly.
Right? Wow.
Yes.
All right, Louis, what a pleasure. Lay of the Fairy, Book 4,
Yeah.
Louis G. Gazoul.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for calling, Alice. I appreciate the time.
Charles Palmatier-Maynard was just trying to do the right thing, visit a loved one who was dying, and he was asked a very strange question. It led him on a very interesting journey that he used as the basis for his book, Searching for Isabella. Where exactly did this journey begin in real life?
My grandmother's nursing home. I was visited her one time, and she asked, "Did you find your real parents?" I was kind of shocked, and I asked my mother about it, and she said, "Oh, she's thinking of Isabella." And it's like, okay, who's Isabella? And she told me the story how Isabella is my grandmother's sister, and some backstory on that, which was kind of scandalous because Isabella was a working girl who worked for my great-grandmother. My great-grandmother had a brothel.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
And yes. And I found out that my grandmother thought I was Isabella's son who died of alcohol poisoning.
Oh, so your grandmother was confused.
Yes. That prompted the search for Isabella, hence the title of the book.
I guess once you found out your grandmother's background, great-grandmother's background, how could you not want to follow that and see where it takes you?
Right. So I went looking for her at that time because it's written from a now perspective, looking back then and everything that I went through then. While I was searching for her, Isabella, there were other secrets I had to keep that I reveal in the book. Family history that's kind of scandalous but funny in the way that I had to go searching at that time, like in the library for old newspapers. And this is way before the internet. So I was using microfilm on old newspapers and news clippings. I found my grandmother's birth notice in the paper, and it listed Isabella as a sister.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I went digging further and trying to find more about Isabella, and did find the article about my great-grandmother's arrest. It's kind of fictional because I never really found it. A lot of the stuff is true, but toward the end it takes a fictional turn because I'm not going to reveal whether I find her or not. I want people to find that out when they read the book. There's a certain name that's connected to the arrest, and there's two names that are in there that are similar to my grandmother's then boyfriend growing up that she had, the same last name that adopted my, I guess, great second cousin, who was Isabella's son.
How do you feel when you start finding this stuff out?
It's about the same time that I find out my first husband is HIV positive. After my grandmother told me to drop this bomb and on me, I talked to my mother. She's talking about Isabella and Steve, who is my second cousin, who my grandmother thinks I am. I'm thinking, okay, I've got the family nose. I look like my father. I know I'm not adopted, but I go looking for Isabella, and then my husband tells me he's HIV positive.
How do you tie this into the search for Isabella?
It's part of what was going on with myself and my family, and a lot of other family history that he and I share, which is kind of similar history.
In your synopsis, you say, read my story of what I wish I had done when my grandmother asked, did you find your real parents? So this is a story of what you wish you had done and some of what you really did. What do you wish you had done?
I wish I had found her. In real life, no, I never did, but in the book, I kind of do, but I find someone who was related to her, and I find pieces of her, letters and history of her.
In the book?
Yes, in the book.
Why do you bring up your character's husband's situation?
To share our experience, what we went through, and how things have changed and haven't changed since then, because it seems like politics haven't changed, because back then there was like the big push for family values and everything else, and that seems to be a recurring theme again. While I'm searching for her, I'm dealing with his history status and us being a, I guess the term is serodivergent couple, one being positive, one being negative. And we meet other people who are in the same situation.
So what's the message for your readers?
Just that, to show what I went through, and that, things do get better.
Are you going to keep writing?
Yes. I have a vampire book as well coming out.
A vampire book. That sounds great. You find Isabella and she's a vampire.
Not quite.
All right. Charles Palmatier-Maynard, Searching for Isabella. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Miguel De La Rocha received a medical discharge from the U.S. Army and decided it was time to publish his autobiography. It is entitled FATE, My Future After Traumatic Events. And Miguel, it sounds like your life started with a traumatic event.
My autobiography actually covers the whole lifetime, basically, from being born dead, having the cord wrapped around my neck 3 times, and my head was blue. I was not responding, and eventually, obviously, they brought me back to life because I'm talking with you on the phone.
Yeah,
I'm not
clearly.
a poltergeist.
Yeah. But Miguel, did you write before this?
Yeah, actually, I started writing poetry when I was a kid because I was always a girl chaser. Like, even when I was 4 or 5 years old, I never had the, ooh, girls have cooties phase, right? I was always chasing, oh, she's cute. So, like, I remember one time where I was 5 years old, it was in pre-K, and there's this really cute girl that I liked, so I, like, drowned myself in my dad's Old Spice cologne when he was taking me on there. And I remember vividly going up to her, sitting next to her, like, here, I smell good, smell me.
Did you write about that?
Yeah, I believe I did put that. Yeah, in fact, it should be in my chapter, Girls, Girls, Girls.
Well, Miguel, what made you decide to write an autobiography now?
Well, it was from everything I've been through. In fact, I open up with the prologue in My Darkest Day, and that was 2014. It was the 4th of July, and I had a massive, severe PTSD episode because it was 4th of July. It was in San Diego, and all the fireworks and the smoke, because right there in San Diego, there was 3 or 4 different fireworks shows going on at the same time. And the way the weather pattern was, it just blew all the smoke into me, and it was a horrific event. And I really go into that and how 3 different options I was looking at to end it all. And the first one was the train tracks, where like the coaster and trains would go like 70 miles an hour through there. But they had a huge 8-foot chain link fence with barbed wire on top. And because of all the physical disabilities I had and the destruction of my knee, I wasn't, I couldn't do that one. So then there was a bridge on the road. So I went to the bridge, but when I was looking down,
it was high, but not high enough. So all I would do was just break my other leg or break both legs, and then, and then they'd haul me away to the loony bin. And I wasn't about to do that. So then the next option was there's a major highway, right on the coast where cars were doing like 70 miles an hour. So I was like, okay, I'll just go, jump in front of one of them. But then as I was getting closer, my mind started playing out like the movie of what would happen. And there was no way that I was going to do that kind of damage and that kind of trauma on the innocent people. I could just imagine that, I jump in front of a minivan or something like that, and then they have kids in the car, and the last thing that they see is my face getting splattered on the windshield.
Oh, geez.
That's traumatic for life. I'm like, and there's no way I'm going to do that. So it was the mindset of looking at it from letting it play out in my mind and looking at what would happen in the after effects, that I just decided to return and just curled up in a ball and rocked myself to sleep. And I don't even remember falling asleep.
How long ago was this?
That was 2014. Just remember rocking, and I was just curled up in a ball, rocking on my bed and in my shelter. And then I woke up the next morning.
Do you talk about how you deal with these traumatic events?
Yeah, I pretty much just describe like what's going on in my mind at the time.
Okay.
And my thought patterns and the emotions going through everything. So not only am I taking the readers through, like walking through it with me, like they're living it with me, but also how I'm getting through it and why things happen and how I'm still here today. Because I've also been through cancer 3 times in my life. The first time I was 15 years old. I've barely survived my childhood, where my dad would choke me out, lift me up against the wall and choke me out till I passed out. Starting at 5 years old, he beat me till I lost consciousness. And that doesn't even include the 4th section, which is Mabuhay, about the 4 years that I spent in the Philippines last. And surviving 3 assassination attempts on my life by the Philippine cartel, as well as the U.S. Embassy getting involved, helping to extract me out of the Philippines, and a whole bunch of other stuff, and including the governor that I end up being a senior personal advisor for, was assassinated on the day I was supposed to meet him.
Oh, my gosh. Did
So,
you eventually have to seek therapy?
Yeah, I've tried that, especially through the VA, but it just never worked for me. And the one time that it was working, because of the red tape and the rules of the VA, I missed 2 appointments due to medical concerns. Like one of them, I had foot surgery and I couldn't drive. So for 2 medical reasons, I missed an appointment. And because I missed 2 appointments, they kicked me out of the system. They kicked me out of therapy. So the whole motto of my book is Semper Anticus, which is one of the mottos for the U.S. infantry, Army infantry, and it simply means always forward. So it's about, no matter what happens, no matter the crap you're going through in life, that always keep going forward. Even if it's just 1 inch at a time, just make it through that one day, and then tomorrow's a new day. And that's where I get the title from too, is that you can have a future after traumatic events.
I see.
And then the other motto is, throughout my life, has been, things can always be worse, but be thankful they're not.
Was writing this book therapeutic for you?
Oh, man, it was brutal for me. Because, if you imagine all the traumatic experiences that a person could go through in life, which I've pretty much been through most of them, you have to relive each moment as you're writing it down.
Yeah.
So that's why I give so much praise and credit and encouragement to women that are taking their traumas, especially, rape and other things, and writing about it to get it out there. Because, going through it personally myself, reliving that trauma over and over and over again.
Right.
And there were actually times where it was so traumatic, I could only write like a couple words at a time. And I would just write like a few words, and then I have to stop for about 2 months before I was able to come back to it, just because it was so fresh and it was such an open wound that I was writing about, that it was, too brutal. And that's why it actually took about 9 years to write everything too.
Right. Are you telling people about this book?
Yeah, I had my first book signing event a couple of weeks ago over at the local Barnes & Noble, and I believe it was one of the most successful book signing events that they had by a local author. They ordered 40 of my books, and we sold 37 out of 40.
That's great. How did you tell people about it?
They promoted it in the store. I went to a couple other places, printed out the same flyer that they were using for their bookstore.
Okay.
And word of mouth, social media, and then just pretty much wherever I go, I'm promoting it. Also, the International Impact Book Awards for 2024, I was a winner for the personal journey section.
That's great. How did you find out about entering that?
I think I found out through Instagram. There was like a promo or something that I did on Instagram. And I said, well, what the hell, why not? And so I entered and not thinking anything about it. And then sure enough, they notified me that I actually won the 2024 International Impact Book Award for personal journey. And I'm going to be plugging to producers and directors and stuff, say, hey, there's a lot of stuff in here that'll make it a blockbuster.
That's great. Miguel De La Rocha, FATE, My Future After Traumatic Events. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Ann. I really appreciate you, and God bless you, sweetie.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. We hope to see you back here every Saturday night at 8 o'clock, or listen to our podcast anytime on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, just to name a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first.